Huh. The final season of Buffy. It wasn't, oh my god, bad, but I kind of wish that I had gotten more from it or just felt more positive about it because it's only in hindsight that I'm getting a few of the things that they put in there, and I'm just. I guess I just wish that there was more because, like, when I first started this season, it took me a while to get into it, and then I think, like, on one of the episodes where Andrew started turning good, it took me like 5 attempts to get through that episode. I don't really know why. It's just, yeah, it was tough for me to get through it. Although I don't think it was bad. Just, I guess I just missed a few things and just binge watching so much of this universe back to back to back. I guess I just wanted to be done with it. Yeah. Because, like, at the start of it, bringing the high school back and trying to show how a few things, not exactly full circle, but, go back to the beginning. It's kind of an interesting bit. And then there's Spike's bit. Because, like, at the end of last season, I thought that, he was getting rid of the chip, but no, as a little bit in episode 2 is shown when he impales someone on a pole, he still has the chip. So he gets his soul back, which I thought was kind of interesting, but I don't entirely get why he would want his soul back, because I thought he was just trying to get back at Buffy for something. Yeah. So his little bit, though, didn't make that much sense. And then, establishing that the big bad for this season is not a typical big bad that can be personified, that it's actually the first evil, and that apparently that this thing had been encountered before, which I don't remember. Yeah, that's, I guess, the big thing that I have. Now, once the mythos for this big bad had been established, believe me, it got a lot more interesting. And then introducing the character portrayed by Idris Elba, I think I'm saying his name right. It added an interesting dynamic where you've got the son of a former Slayer and who Spike actually has a connection with. Nice way to layer it. But a couple of other things that they did, like adding these potential slayers, it just seemed odd that they did that. I mean, like, it kind of makes sense because, like, this isn't, your typical big bad that you're dealing with, like I said, but, like, how is it that these potentials can, hold their own? Like, the Slayer has to die, and then the gift, or it has to be figured out, who's next. Like, that's how you're able to have Faith and Buffy be there at the same time. But all these girls, like, And then Willow forming that bond with that Kennedy girl. That struck me as a little bit more random than Terra. Like, this seemed to happen kind of quickly, even though I did recognize a little bit of chemistry between them that was a little similar to when they were setting her up with Terra. But at the same time, it makes me feel kind of like, so then, how is it that if you're so easily drawn into these relationships with Terra and Kennedy that you had that attraction to Xander and Oz, and then you go, aha, gay now? That just didn't make that much sense. Let's see, what else can I mention? The continuation of Xander and Anya's relationship. I felt like in last season they did a decent job with it, but here, it just seems to be that they kind of bickered with each other, although they did appear to come to an understanding as the season went along, but I don't really know what the justification for that seemed to be, but I just probably missed something, wanting to finish this off and focusing on a whole bunch of other story arcs that were happening. Giles. Okay. A lot of you are going to hate me for this, but I actually didn't enjoy him too much this season, which was kind of odd because there was a noticeable absence when he wasn't in season 6, but here I don't know. I don't think he added that much in a few scenes. I think it hurt, to be honest, although the interesting thing is I'm pretty sure that if you add up all his appearances from last season and this season, it's a season's worth, and it's weird not seeing him in the intro, along with them removing the Buffy and Faith dance. Like, why did you do that? Come on. Nah. Right. Yeah, so... I mean, like, I was nervous when I thought that they had killed him, because, like, I didn't really see a way for him to have gotten out of there. And then when he explains how he ended up getting out of there, it felt kind of weak. And I hate to say that. I do. Oh, yeah, and I didn't even mention Dawn yet. And I don't think that I mentioned her in last season. Well, in last season, it seemed like she was just, a supporting bit to aid Buffy. They didn't seem to do that much with her. Here, yeah, it's still supporting, but more people mention her. She seems to talk a little more, do a little bit. And, like, Buffy even makes the joke at the beginning of the season. Hey, you're taller than me now. Yeah, so it was nice that they stepped her up a little bit, and when they thought that she was a potential and then ultimately had her not be, yeah, like if she ultimately had been a potential, I think you would have been able to figure that out. Plus, you gotta remember, technically, she didn't exist for most of her life. You know? Right. And one thing that's kind of odd that I didn't realize until it was pointed out to me, how is it that she and Faith somehow, like, know each other? She didn't exist when Faith was around last. Just, huh? Yeah. Then, bringing back Andrew and Jonathan, at first I was really annoyed that they, did that, but it ultimately worked, to show the deviousness of the first, and then how Andrew ultimately turned out to be a good person in the end. Which I guess kind of makes sense, because of the three, they hadn't actually encountered Andrew before. At least that's what I assume, because they were able to identify Warren and Jonathan instantly, but they had no clue who Andrew was. Yeah, although he was a bit of a blumbering mess, but that's what they're going for, so I can't, complain. Because if it's something that they wanted you to feel, even if it is negative, right. But I was okay with the little subplots that they were throwing in here that didn't just relate to the first or the destruction of the Slayers and the Watchers Council and whatnot, because the continuing to build up with relationships, that was nice. It was funny to see that episode where like all the females were possessed into doing like crazy things, because I think Dawn or Anya, wanted to chain themselves in front of a speeding train. Buffy was going to assassinate, but with the rocket launcher from season 2, and then Spike has to take it from her. That was hilarious, and it was like, huh? So it was nice to see that they did all of that stuff, and the cameos done by all the previous big bads. That was nice. Although at first I just thought it was them bringing back Glory, and I'm just like, oh no, please don't tell me. But then Adam appears, and I'm like, oh wait, I know what's happening now. Right. And then bringing back Riley one more time, and then having them finally get rid of the chip and Spike. I'm really glad that they did that, because, you know, he's totally different now. He doesn't deserve that agony, and now he can actually help them out. I mean, like, sure, he was able to help them out with demons or other vampires, but like in season 5, he mentions that he can't help as much because of the downed ship. Okay. So I think that tackles, like, the first 2/3 of this season. And then we get into, I think, what is my biggest complaint with this season, even though people will be like, what the heck are you complaining about this for? It's when Faith comes back. Now, like, okay, I knew that they were going to bring her back because I watched Angel Season 4 before this. Good thing that I did, and, you know, this allows her to make her peace with everyone and get used to the idea of Spike being a good guy. But the thing was, it seemed like everyone at first just, you know, brushes her aside, but then suddenly everyone but Buffy is okay with it. But then later on, it seems like she makes a peace with Faith at the same time that she makes a peace with all those potential slayers when they kicked her out of her own house for a couple of episodes. And, like, I don't really know why they did that. I mean, like, it kind of makes sense that, you know, Buffy trying to step into true leadership for the first time in a long while, but I really wish that they had not done that. And going back to bringing Faith in here's my main issue with it. Up until now, I always noticed that when it came to crossovers with this show and Angel, just about all of them seem to have part 1 take place on this show and part 2 take place on Angel. Then, of course, you have that meeting that occurs off screen between Angel and Buffy in season 6 and season 3 of their shows, respectively. But since it happened off screen, there's nothing to really see. But now we finally have something that had the first part happen on Angel, and then the second part happening here. So that makes me really disappointed, because up until now, if you hadn't been watching Angel, you would have been just fine. Oh, sure, there's a few moments where Willow goes, hey, did you really hire Cordelia? And there's the wondering of where Spike disappears too in season 4 for a little bit, and earlier in this season, there's the remark of, hey Willow, there's this person called Fred who's trying to talk to you, and then you have the phone conversation. Well, no, the bits where Angel calls Buffy but doesn't say anything, but that's all perfectly explained. We always got an explanation for everything that you needed to know that happened to Buffy and or Willow or company on Angel, and you were fine with it. This, even though they tried to, so did you really escape from prison and then help Angel get his soul back? But what? Just one sentence? It needs to be longer than that. We need a justifiable explanation, and yeah, just, it really annoys me that now you reach the point in this show where you couldn't have just kept watching it without having to have watched something from Angel. That really is disappointing, because, like, the cameo that Angel has at the end, sure, at the end of Angel Season 4, he mentions, yeah, Smallville seems to be the place to be. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but we didn't need an explanation for why he's there. He just shows up, aids Buffy in getting rid of what's-his-face, Caleb, and gives Buffy that lasts a little bit to help them defeat the First. Although, I gotta admit, that cameo just, it felt so forced. That dialogue between them afterward in that cemetery while Spike is watching from afar, just, ugh. Yeah, that was just bad. Like, I'm sure a few of you are going to hate me for this. Like, if I had been in charge of this season, this is what I think I would have done. In Angel Season 4, I should add, this is what I think I would have done. Now, I would have had the Season 4 story arc where, you know, you have Angel give up his soul temporarily, have Faith tame him, have Willow give the soul back, but then suddenly Faith is gone. Angel, who is the most qualified to keep up with her because, you know, he's got super strength of a vampire and can, you know, run a little faster, catches up to her, and she explains, I need some time by myself to figure this out, although that doesn't totally make sense because, you know, she had time to figure herself out in prison. You then fast forward to the last episode of Angel Season 4. Faith reappears while he's, you know, looking at Connor, and she then takes the thing that Angel gets right at the end there, and she is the one that helps Buffy get rid of Caleb at the end of the penultimate episode. So it isn't until the actual finale of this show that she reappears, so you can get that much further into it. And then, during the first minute or two of the episode, she explains what happened to her after she left in Season 4. So that also gets rid of that stupid bit between Buffy and Angel at the beginning of the last episode, and also takes care of the bit where Buffy gets ostracized from the group. Oh, heck, you could still have her be ostracized from the group and then come back. Because, as I said, it didn't seem like they did the best job of having Faith make peace with everyone, so then you can do that in the finale and then still leave a little bit of uncertainty while she's just like, hey, I know that there's been some rough things that have happened between us all, okay, but I've changed. I've helped out the other guys. Now I'm here to help you. Here, I can prove this. Angel told me to give you this. So that feels better, if you ask me. Yeah. And just how little that they did with her ultimately proves a point that I had felt when I was watching Angel Season 4, that Faith actually works better on Angel, you know? Yeah. But that's just my opinion, and I knew that they would have to have her make peace with everybody, yeah. So I know that was kind of long-winded, but I felt like it was justified in me saying that, just, you know, the fact that now Buffy can't 100% stand on its own anymore, that's disappointing because they were that close. And then that final battle, I gotta admit, that, while not 100% carrying the weight of final battle that I was after, it got pretty darn close. You know, because a few of those potentials died. I was nervous about several of the main characters because I totally expected them to off Giles and maybe one other person that we knew. But as it turns out, Giles barely gets a scratch, which I was kind of surprised by because, you know, after what I saw happen to, what's-his-face, Merrick, I think it was, in that god-awful movie, you know, I just expected them to get rid of Giles at some point, but no, he survives, and it's actually Anya who dies, which I was pretty shocked by, because I seem to recall remembering in when I was watching season 5 that I thought she was going to die there, and she didn't. Here, I didn't think she was in danger at all. And yeah, they decided to kill her off, but... Yeah, although a little bit of that I think had to do with Andrew being a total wuss, even though he does try to ease Xander after she dies. And yeah, it wasn't a cheap way that she died, you know. That was justified. Like, they could have easily gone with her, though they chose not to. And I'm really hoping that, even though it is a tiny bit nice to see those little things between him and Faith, I kind of don't want anything to happen there. I don't know why. I just... Something about that, yeah. And then that last little bit with Buffy and Spike. You know, she's actually trying to make some peace with Spike, and he corrects her, goes, "No, you don't love me, but thank you anyway." And then just that little moment at the end where everyone's staring at the end of the pit where the whole town used to be, and it's just so funny how the sign, "Welcome them to the town," is the last thing to fall in there. Yeah. So, you get the idea that there's more that's going to happen with this group of characters, but if you were to have this be the last moment with them, I'm okay with that. It was wrapped up enough. Right. I gotta stand up. Oh, man. So that wraps up Buffy, and I'm really kicking myself for not checking that show out before now, because that was definitely one of the TV shows I've gotten the most enjoyment out of that wasn't a reality show, because, you know, this had nice real-life messages, excellent balance between humorous episodes, dark episodes, serious and not dark episodes. And this wasn't a true ensemble cast, because I think ensemble cast implies that most of them were famous beforehand, but giving props to a whole bunch of other people and adding and dropping some of the supporting characters along the way, I really applaud them for doing it. This is an excellent product. So now I've only got one more bit in the Buffyverse. Really hope... Are you kidding me? Okay, if you, don't want a spoiler for Angel Season 5, I suggest you turn off this video. Seriously? Whose bright idea was that? Great.